Why Dom Solanke and Brennan Johnson are high on my watch list. These are my transfer targets. Welcome to the Gianni YouTube show. Hope you guys are well and you're looking forward to game week 7. In today's show, we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to look at 9 potential transfer targets for me. That's right. This is our buyer's guide, if you like. Before we start, though, if you fancy hitting those buttons, do like and subscribe to the channel. Loads of you watching will think you're subscribed when you're not. It would help me out loads if you just hit that button today if you want to follow my journey throughout the season. So look, we're going to take you through an obvious player to buy in each position, an alternative player to buy in each position, and a differential to buy in each position. We're going to link it to my team. So let's just have a quick look how my bus team is set up. And look, I mean, I look at my team and I've got a lot of players playing home this week with good fixtures. But of course, this is a week where there's Champions League football and therefore a lot of my players midweek action. With that in mind, I'm not going to be making any early moves. Sure, you can beat the prices, but points over pounds always. I could be shopping, though, in any of these positions this week, and I'll tell you later in the week where I'm making my transfer. So look, let's start off with the obvious player to buy in defence, and then we'll move on to alternative differential and do so for all 3 positions. Every player you see in today's show is going to be under 30% owned. There's no point in me telling you to buy a Haaland or a Salah or a Trent, right? But we're going to start with Gvardiol. Now, Gvardiol got the goal at the weekend for Man City against Newcastle, but he looks like the Gvardiol at the end of last season where he's bombing on and he's got those light feet in the area where he can shift it left foot, right foot and tuck it bottom corner. We saw at the end of last year, he saved a lot of people's seasons, and we're seeing in the last few weeks Gvardiol bombing down that left-hand side. He feels like the most nailed Man City defender. He is, of course, 5.9 million and 22% owned. Now, the fixtures for Man City, they're really, really good. They're right at the top of the ticker, Man City, and we see clean sheets. I know they've been finding ways of conceding 1 goal, but when I look at fixtures versus Fulham at home, Southampton at home, Wolves away, Bournemouth away, Brighton away, I expect in the next 5 game weeks that we can see here from game week 7 on screen, I'd be gutted if I didn't get 2-3 clean sheets. And with Gvardiol, unlike the other Man City defenders, other than maybe Rico Lewis, you should get a little bit of upside, shouldn't you? So look, Gvardiol is still a great buy, despite the fact City conceding the odd goal here and there. Clean sheets are coming. They are an elite defence, as we'll see later in the show. In fact, let me just show you now, spoiler alert. When we look at the expected goals conceded from Man City, 5.24. Only Liverpool have a better record so far this season in terms of expected data against them. They have in fact conceded 6 goals compared to Liverpool's 2, even though their expected data is so similar. Worth noting that. Let's move, keep that chart up because we're going to speak about Forest. We got Liverpool, Forest, and then Liverpool, Man City, and then Forest third for expected goals conceded. So let's talk about an alternative defender to buy, and that is Aina, someone that I watched a lot when he was a kid at Chelsea. He did really well in Italy in Serie A, playing for Torino, and now he's back in the Premier League, and he's first choice for Nottingham Forest, arguably first choice left back and right back. He's now playing a lot of right back because Moreno's at left back. He gets forward, is a back 4, this Nuno system for Forest, but Forest have been very good defensively. I know they conceded to Fulham, but I think we're going to get clean sheets at Forest, which is why I backed Matt Sells in my actual team. And I think Aina is a really, really good option. As we say, third for expected goals conceded. They've got a better defensive record this season than Arsenal, than Villa, than Spurs, than Chelsea. 5 goals conceded, expected 5.38. That is very, very similar to Man City. Yeah, Nuno teams over time always keep clean sheets, remember. So let's move on, shall we, and talk a little bit about some other options in defence, midfield and attack. If you're listening on podcast, we're going to give you all the numbers as well as the visual stuff on screen, which I'll talk you through. But look, shout out to OneFootball, who sponsor today's show. Many of you by now have got OneFootball on your phone. If you haven't, genuinely consider downloading this app, right? There's a QR code on screen. There's a link in the description. It takes seconds to download and it will be your go-to app, probably on a daily basis. It is mine. Whether it's football news you want or you want to watch football video clips from different leagues or the Premier League, it's all there on the OneFootball app. It's my absolute go-to. It's my Bible. It's what I do all day, every day. I'm on my phone, as we all are, and I reckon I load that app 4 or 5 times a day. Definitely first thing in the morning and last thing at night. So look, guys, let's move on to our differential defender. This is a guy that's 2% owned. He's only 4 million. Now, when we look at the 4 million options, Greaves At Ipswich, you could spend 4.1 and go fast. At Leicester, you can go to a Southampton defender for 4 million. Well, here you get a Brentford defender for 4 million. The reason many on Wildcard didn't go there was the uncertainty over his minutes. But Game Week 6 showed us again that he's a starter, right? He's getting 90 minutes now for Brentford. And if we look at the average position maps from the last 2 games, this was away to Spurs. They played a back 5, right? They had Van den Berg as the right centre-back. And they actually had Nathan Collins as the left centre-back, Pinnock as the centre-back. But because Lewis Potter was so high on the left, they all sort of shifted left, and we almost saw Van den Berg as a right centre-back in what looked like a 4 often on the ball. Then they went and played against West Ham at home, and it was a more traditional back 4. But Van den Berg played right back in a 4, which was really, really interesting. So these 2 pass maps show us good average position, whether he's at right centre-back or right back. If he's starting games for Brentford, with their fixtures, at 4 million, he's the best 4 million defender in the game. So do note Van den Berg. They spent 25 million on him. He did really well in Germany last year. He was actually on loan in Germany from Liverpool. He's got pedigree, and I think he's going to be very, very good for Brentford. So look, that's my differential buy for 4 million. Now, will I be buying a defender this week? I'm not so sure I will. If I do go shopping, I think it's most likely I'll be shopping in midfield. So let's talk midfielders, shall we? And do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. I know loads of you think that you're subscribed and you're not. So just double check and hit that notification bell when you do, because I'm doing loads of lives. We're going live on Sunday mornings. I'm going to try and do my first deadline stream live on Saturday this week as well. I've still not done a deadline stream this season. Ridiculous. Mbeumo is the only player in this chart that I own. I'm going to put him in as obvious because he fits the bill as under 30% owned. Remember, that's what we said we're going to do. Mbeumo's under 30% owned. He's actually only 22% and he's scoring goals for fun. He's 7.4 million. And when I compare him to an asset in midfield like Eberechi Eze, Eze's got very similar ownership. He's a very similar price point. In fact, I think they started the season at the same price point at 7 million. And the numbers are just better for Mbeumo. He beats Eze in pretty much every department, whether it's for big chances, whether it's for goal involvement, whether it's for goals, whether it's for penalty area touches. It's all just Mbeumo edging it. Now, I think Eze is a very good FPL option. I'm not slating Eze one bit. I could have compared Mbeumo with a really rubbish FPL option at that same price point. But what's the point? We've got to compare the best with the best. And I think Eze is up there as a very, very good FPL option this season. I know he hasn't been performing well, but his expected data is already good. Mbeumo's is better. And this just shows how elite I think Mbeumo is. Eze is rightly popular, but Mbeumo's even better. Honestly, he feels like a must-have at the moment, Mbeumo. It's just so obvious. But let's talk about players that I could buy. And I mentioned at the top of the show, Spurs forwards. Brennan Johnson is listed as a midfielder, playing as a front 3 player. He's 6.4 million. He's only 1% owned. Only 1% owned. That is unbelievable for Brennan Johnson, I think, knowing the goals he's scoring. And he's shooting on sight. I also like Kulusevski in that Spurs midfield. And when we compare them like for like, in some metrics in terms of like big chances created and chances created, Kulu comes out on top. Same as his BPS, his baseline BPS, Kulu's better. But in all the other metrics, we can see here, this is from the Scout members area in the blue, Brennan comes out on top. Whether it's goal attempts, goals, shots in the box, actual assists, Brennan is higher despite Kulu doing better with his chance creation, penalty area touches, expected goal involvement. Brennan beats Kulu. Similar price point, similar ownership, but both very good picks in their own right. The problem, I guess, with Brennan and Kulu to some extent is you might not always get 90 minutes. I don't think that matters too much. Like, both of them had 5 starts. Let's look at this second graphic here from Scout. The time played, 5 starts each, 4-3-8 versus 4-2-3 minutes. They've both had 6 appearances. They've both been subbed on once. Brennan has been subbed off in 4 of his 6 appearances, though. Kulu only subbed off once. Kulu is more likely to get 90, but Brennan is the more explosive option. They're both very good picks. I think Brennan edges it, and he's genuinely someone I could be looking at because of the price point. And if you're moving away from, say, a Luis Diaz, if we get news he doesn't start on Saturday morning, and we'll get that news because Liverpool are the early kickoff, then maybe you move and downgrade to a Spurs midfielder. Or you go really differential. And again, like, this is a guy that's got slightly higher ownership, but I feel like he's more differential because no one's talking about him. And that is 2% owned Jadon Sancho. 6.4 million. And to demonstrate how good that Chelsea attack is, we're going to show the goals and the big chances table. Chelsea are top for goals, and they're second for big chances. Chelsea have scored more goals than every other team in the Premier League this season with 15. Man City 14. And then you've got Arsenal, Villa, Liverpool, Spurs all with 12 goals. Chelsea are outscoring teams, guys, all of them. And the big chances, Chelsea have had 24. The only team to better that is Spurs with 26. Big chances, goals for fun. We know that Chelsea front four now. It's been the same for a couple of weeks. It's pretty damn obvious. It's Madueke on the right, Sancho on the left, Palmer and Jackson. Madueke and Sancho aren't going to get 90. Neither's Palmer. Neither's Jackson. Palmer's the only guy that's probably going to get 90. If they're scoring all these goals, probably doesn't matter if you're only getting 70 minutes out of Jadon Sancho. He's 6.4 million. He's just had a couple of assists. He's going to be less of a goal threat, I think, than Madueke, but much more of an assist threat. I also think he'll get higher minutes because on that left-hand side, Sancho is competing with Mudryk and Madueke is competing with Pedro Neto, the better player. So I think Sancho is going to get more and more minutes. I think he's a really good own. And this Chelsea attack data for goals and big chances is so positive. Honestly, I know the fixtures aren't great for Chelsea, but they're going to score goals against anyone. And Sancho is a genuinely good option on my watch list. Absolutely. And when I look at my team, I go, oh, if I'm selling Diaz, could I move to a Sancho or a Spurs mid? Absolutely could. What about forwards? Who's the guy that I really wanted on wildcard that I had all week and I was so disappointed in myself that I didn't stick with him because I made a last minute change. I got Luis Diaz in, which meant I had to downgrade, and Ollie Watkins. He's just under that 30% ownership at 29. He's still 9 million. I had him since game week 3. But when we look at some of his data especially from game week 3, it is when he started producing the returns. He got 5 points and then he had a 13, a 6 and an 11. But when we look at his minutes here, the reason many weren't picking Ollie Watkins was because of the Euros and slow coming back and the injury problems he had. He got 61. He was coming off after the hour mark. 61, 64, 60. And then from game week 4, his minutes really picked up. An 83, a 90, and 83 again in game week 6. Seeing him get more minutes is all we need. Because when Ollie Watkins gets minutes, he's going to get goals. We forget last season he outscored Erling Haaland. He's a proper good FPL asset. The fixtures are good. He's got likes of Fulham and Man United up next. Honestly, I could very easily just swallow my pride and go, Watkins, you're back in my team come game week 7. And depending on team use, maybe he will be. So we've seen that screen grab there of his minutes and we see his goals and assists there. Consistent scorer. Already this season, 4 goals, 2 assists. Now, knowing he was coming off after the hour mark, first few game weeks, pretty damn good going. Guys, thank you for hitting those buttons. I know you're liking and subscribing. If you're commenting, I will be replying to as many comments as I can in today's video. Of course, members always get their comments replied to. No matter what time of day you comment me, I'll be responding if you're a member. But I'll try and reply to everyone on this one. So do get commenting with your thoughts on my team and how the season's going. But look, there's an alternative option up front. And he's 9% owned, 7.6 million. And that is Dom Solanke. Yeah, I really like Spurs attack. The attack numbers are so good. And when we look at those big chances, I demonstrated the big chances for Chelsea and the goals. But Spurs have actually, they're still top 5. They're level 3rd for 12 goals, level with Arsenal and Liverpool and Villa. But when we look at big chances, they've had more than anyone. They've had more than anyone. And what do Ange Postecoglou teams do? They produce big chances en masse. And the number 9 of that Spurs team, whether it's like Sonny playing there or Richarlison or Brennan popping in, or, of course, when fit, it will always be Solanke. The number 9 for a Postecoglou team will get a ton of service and they'll create a ton of chances for you. Now he's scored a couple, Solanke, in the Cup and in the Premier League. We're going to see more goals from him. We often see this with strikers. They have a dry spell and then they get the momentum. I think that he's in the middle of this good momentum and that's going to continue. And I look at my team and go, yeah, I picked Havertz for a couple of weeks. Knowing the fixtures will turn for Havertz, it's very likely I make a Havertz to Solanke switch in a couple of weeks' time. Possibly by game week 7, but more likely game week 8 or 9. I won't be selling Havertz in game week 7. It'll be after 7. It'll be 8 or 9. So that's where I'm at with Dom Solanke, guys. I really like him. But if you want something like a little bit different, you could think completely outside the box and go to a Cunha of Wolves. I don't love the Wolves attack. But when I look at the fixtures, I go, oh, okay, Wolves are going to get some good fixtures now because they've been in a really rough spell and they're about to get a little bit better. They play the likes of Brentford and Brighton and Crystal Palace, and I just think back to last season and go, Cunha was so good. He's the main man at Wolves, and every time you watch him, he's their best player. He'll be on a lot of the set pieces, should be on pens, 6.5 million, 2%. I very much like Matheus Cunha if you want to go completely outside the box. But of course, if you're shopping for a forward, Solanke and Watkins doesn't it? Feels so obvious. Guys, if you've enjoyed this video, hit those buttons on the way out, and I'll see you later in the week when I reveal my team selection. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.